afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our very first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee virtual town hall meeting for 2021. We are so elated to be with you this afternoon, as we would like to give you an update of what we've been doing behind the scenes as we're kicking off for Q1 and really creating a drive to really push some great initiatives as we approach 2021 in its entirety. We have a lot that is in store for you guys. We have some wonderful guests. I am Corinne Bowman, your 2021 chair, and I serve this year along with my partner in crime, Derek Thornton. He's also our committee vice chair. Today, you will hear from our amazing leadership team, and we have a great individual that we would love to introduce to you all. So as we get started, Derek, can you please just say hello to everyone?
Yes, thank you, Corinne, and welcome to everybody else. As she said, my name is Derek Thornton, and excited to be co-chairing or vice chairing this committee with Corinne. We've had a lot of movement and exciting things we've done, a lot of big changes that we've done. It's only the third month of the year, and we've already made some massive changes. And so we're excited to talk to you guys about that and let you know more about what our committee's been doing.
Awesome. And today we have our special guest from our amazing leadership team. And we will hear from Andrew Sims, our CEO, Brett Bushnell, our 2021 president, and Louis Grubbs, our past 2020 president from our Realtor Association. We are so elated to have him here today. Is Andrew on with us already?
I am.
Awesome. Great. So before I even somebody's background noise. The history of this organization is so profound, but I want to talk about primarily this committee. The committee at first was originated as the Diversity Committee and was formed by former President Asa Fleming. And this committee was also chaired by Michelle B. Imbraro. And she was our first chair. And with this, their proud initiative was to really create a platform that embraces diversity for all within our association. Over the years, we've had several chairs. And to sit here today, it's just, it's such a profound experience because of where we are right now in our country. If you look at this past year, the events that surfaced from COVID, of course, being in such a health pandemic that we did not prepare for, numerous events surrounding social injustices, dealing with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and even Ahmaud Arbery. And also looking at our political climate, there was so much that was going on that brought discourse to not only our country, but we even seen it within our real estate industry. And so as a committee, we are here today to tell you that we are here to be part of the solution and not the problem. How do we do that? By one, starting a conversation. Having a conversation is the most powerful thing, where we're able to allow different perspectives, different viewpoints to come and play and create ideas around solutions to better improve our organization and our businesses for all. In addition to that, we look at working with our top leadership to create ways that we can emerge great initiatives that we can carry out within our agent community and also with the community in which we live and serve. Today, we're going to get a chance to really hear from our leadership and how they vision here for us here within our committee and our association in the future landscape and what that looks like. But let's talk about some of the changes that we've already had. So we are a new name and a new mission. As many of you guys know, we've been known as a diversity committee since the birth of 2013. As of 2021, we're now the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. We've also changed our mission. We wanted to expand it a little bit further. And our mission states to create and promote a culture within our association that reflects diversity, equity, and inclusion. Implementing strategic plans which utilize these core values to foster the necessary growth for professional and personal development for all members, while also affecting change within our local communities. With that being said, that's only one of the many things that we have in our sleeves, but we could not do this without our fearless and amazing leader, Andrew Sims. Getting to know Andrew has been such a delight. Not only his passion, but his commitment and also his willingness to do whatever it takes for us to be the best association that we can be. Andrew Sims, it's been an honor and pleasure for Derek and I to work aside you. And we would love to hear from you and just your vision on what you would like to see our committee do and how you see the future landscape of our association in the years to come.
Well, Corinne, love to you, my friend, and you and Derek both. You know, Corinne was unknown to me in part of last year until our president-elect, Leslie Williams, introduced Brett and I to her, and I immediately was like, I don't care what it takes. We need Corinne involved in what we're doing. So Corinne, the blessing has truly been mine when I say that, and I mean that. And Derek, I've known you were a rock star since I met you, man. So that no further comment on that one. Well, you know, it's been an interesting year, right? And a lot has happened in 300 days, not even 365 days. But, you know, I want to begin by saying that my biggest frustration is that it took the murder of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud for us to start this conversation. That's my biggest regret, is that we have somehow stumbled across these conversations that should have been happening for years and should have been taking place for years. And we've now elevated them, which I'm thankful for. But it does need to be said that these disparities and this discrimination in these lives have been living this for years, and that's unacceptable. So kind of where we are, like, you know, we obviously, if you've been involved with our organization for the last year, you've seen that we have made a very big, significant commitment to not only hosting and facilitating these conversations, but celebrating them as well. You know, I think a lot of people are still living in the shadows with this because they're afraid of the public perception or the member perception of having these conversations. And I think I can assuredly say unapologetically that we are unapologetic about having these conversations, because I think there's very few moments in our lives where we're able to own a space and to truly be revolutionary. And I think our leadership team very quickly saw the opportunity for us to be thought leaders in this space. And for me, I've been doing this work for years. I've been doing this behind the scenes quietly at associations, for years. And now it's like it's in the sunshine, and I love it. I love that we're having these conversations because there is so much to do. You know, there's a lot of groups that are meeting, and I shared in our meeting we just left with Matt DeFanis about the change to the Code of Ethics 10-5. And we had a breakout group of people afterwards, you know, and we started talking about like why this is important and what should come next. And what needs to come next is a couple of things. One, we have to start bringing more white people to these conversations. We have to start bringing our peers and colleagues to these conversations who seemingly feel that because they themselves are not racist or they themselves have not said something in hatred, that this is not an issue to them. I frequently use the example, I myself have never lived through a hurricane, but I don't sit here and say that hurricanes don't exist because of that. I still believe that they are important and dangerous, and we have to talk about it. And that's how I feel about these conversations about racism and these microaggressions. You know, somebody in our last group pointed out that overt racism may not be something that everyone has experienced, but micro moments of discrimination add up over time and are just as equally as hurtful. The second thing we have to stop doing is requiring people of color and our Black and international colleagues to somehow be our culture guides as white people. We have to stop asking people to explain racism to us. Racism is the only toxic relationship in which the abused has to explain the crime to the abuser, and it has to somehow make them understand what they did wrong. And we've been requiring that of people for years. Well, tell me why what I said was inappropriate. No, that is no longer my job to tell you why what you said is hurtful. You need to take the initiative to figure that out. So we have to bring people to the table. And I'm a part of a group every Monday night that meets. And one of the questions that was posed one week was, what are white people so afraid of? Why do people, and Teresa Pitt in our just last meeting said, you know, why does my skin color somehow mean that you will have less? Why does my skin color somehow make you afraid of your position because of my search and seeking out equality and equity? And I think that's an important question for my white friends to ask themselves. But we've got to stop with the diversity committee being a group of people gathering who felt discriminated and somehow guiding white people with kid gloves through the conversation. So I'm just going to put that out there. The third thing that we've got to start realizing is that privilege is not a negative term. It is a reality term. And we have to recognize that privilege does exist, that the things that I am able to do and say and be are different than my friends of color. And when I go into a room and I'm the only white person there, that moment where you're like, oh, I'm the only white person there. Imagine feeling that every single day. Imagine always feeling like you're the only person in the room that is like you. And then you're starting to get a taste of what some of our friends deal with on an everyday basis. So it's been very important for me as a leader to recognize those things, and as the CEO of an organization to come to those realities to help guide the strategy. You know, one of the things that we did last year was we formed this presidential advisory group that I know Lewis is going to talk about in just a little bit. But a byproduct of that was that we need to make sure that our staff team is available and open to being a part of that conversation. Well, as much as I may realize, I can't be that person every single day. I need somebody with a background and a training and a sensitivity and an understanding of what needs to be said. And that's where Michelle came from. Michelle Zhang is our first ever and almost 100 years employee who is full-time focused on this committee, full-time focused on being an outlet and a resource for our members to go to and talk about these things that are going on. And, you know, one of the things that is important is that when you start, and Wendell Bullard, who was our chair that Lewis appointed last year, I'm not going to steal your thunder, Lewis, I promise. The chair, he said, until it's somebody's job, until there is measurable output and opportunities to be had, and that there are association dollars going towards this position, it will be performative. It will be in word only. And so Michelle being here shows that the leadership is committed to what we're doing, because we are now assigning resources never before assigned to these topics. And I think that's important to understand. But it can't just be about the education. It can't just be about the events, the webinars, the town halls. We have to allow diversity to perforate so many things, that, if that's the right word, that we do as an organization. And one specifically is our advocacy efforts, right? We have to start putting our RPAC dollars to work on promoting these concepts and these positions when we lobby at a local, state, and national level. that there is legislation and policy that is going in place that deters discrimination, that creates opportunities for Black home ownership in our communities. I just came out of a room with our advocacy team just now talking about a county program we're looking at to empower financial independence and to empower financial growth in our underserved communities here in the Triangle area. And that's great. These walls have never heard that talk, y'all. And it is a wonderful thing to be surrounded by a staff, encouraged by a leadership team, and strengthened by a volunteer base that actually cares about having this dialogue. And I'm going to ramble for the next 2 hours unless somebody tells me to be quiet. But I love what we're doing.
Be quiet.
Yeah, well, I told Derek, I said, look, I'm about to bring a sermon this morning, but I love what we're doing, and I certainly don't want to step on the toes of Michelle introducing herself, Lewis talking about his role as our president last year, and obviously President Bushnell, if he's on here, sharing about kind of where this all goes next. So without further ado, let me turn it over to the wonderful people I'm privileged to work with. But Corinne and Derek, I love you guys, and I'm just so thankful for you all.
No, thank you. That was amazing. There was so much in that, Andrew. And for you guys who are actually watching this and listening to this, I mean, so many great things that I'm glad you just said, because we don't hear it enough, and we don't hear it from different backgrounds. The one is, having this committee, you can't have it with just everybody's all from one race and one background, right? How do we really create change that way? We create change when we actually come together and we can understand from different perspectives to say, okay, let's make sense of it and realize that we need all of our brothers and sisters together in doing this. And the fact of the matter, we have an association here, guys, that is really putting the money behind what they're saying. And this is huge. This is really, really huge. And to be in a position where we can say that we actually have the first time ever a diversity, equity, and inclusion director is absolutely huge for our association. So thank you, because we could not have done it without your help, Andrew, and the leadership team. So we really appreciate everything that you're doing. And I want to get back to some of the points that you made, because I believe it's going to bring a lot of conversational points to the table. But before we do that, I do want to give honor and respect to former President Lewis Grubbs, our past president, who did an amazing job for 2020. Hey, Lewis, how are you today?
Here, Corin, if I was any better, I'd be you. Welcome, everybody. And I want to take just a few minutes to, first of all, thank you for being here. And secondly, to talk a little bit about our presidential advisory group that last year we put together. This came to being as a result of some of the social unrest we saw based on the events we have talked about already this morning. And what we saw happening was some diverse groups of individuals gathering together to make statements that would impact all of us socially. And so as a result of that, after lots of thought and lots of prayer and searching my own soul and feelings, I thought it best we come up with a group of individuals to address issues that impacted all of us. And that ended up being our presidential advisory group. And I want to especially thank Andrew, Casey, and Alyssa on our staff for being an integral part of this conversation. And we came up with the name, and I think Andrew coined this name in our conversations, Making Room at the Table. And, Andrew talked also a while ago about being in the previous meetings and about standing up here and having a sermon. So Derek, if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'm going to have a sermon. When you look at this topic, making room at the table, it goes back scripturally to King Saul and David. When David became king, it was tradition at the time to kill all the ancestors of the previous king so that no one could potentially come back and claim the throne. There was one individual who, from King Saul's family, remained, and his name was Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth was allowed to escape with his maid servant. And during that time of escape, he was dropped and both of his legs were broken and became crippled. And as the story goes on, David was having a feast and Mephibosheth was found out and brought to David's attention. And David could rightfully have killed him because that was tradition at the time, being an ancestor of his enemy Saul. But he did not. He brought Mephibosheth into the family, into the fold. He had him bathed, clothed, and gave him a seat at the royal table and reinstated all that had been taken away from him. And picture in your mind, if you will, reinstatement and being brought to the royal table, clothed in its noble clothing. You're sitting at that table and all you see is from the waist up. His infirmities could not be seen. Therefore, he had a room at the table and he was equitable and equal to everyone else who was at that table in the eyes of the king. And that was what was important. And that brings us to where we are today. And while I was thinking about this group and what we wanted it to look like and the mission of this group, again, after much thought and deliberation and soul searching and prayer, the only person who came to my mind who I felt could lead this group was someone I'm proud to call my friend, and that's Wendell Bullard, who is a past president of North Carolina Association of Realtors and currently serves as a commissioner on the Real Estate Commission. And he came to my mind because I know him as a man of integrity, a man of good conscience, and I knew he would do this and jump all over it and do it well and lead this group to where we ultimately wanted to go. We started out with a mission statement. If you'll indulge me, I'm going to read that to the group. To create an ongoing collaborative space for members of our association to share experiences and feelings about diversity within our industry and facilitate how Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors can foster inclusivity and develop leaders within our community. When we met as a group, we had some guidelines to go over. And again, everybody in this group has heard me say on more than one occasion, we had a group of 16 members initially, it ended up being 15. And what we wanted to do was not make this an issue of two dimensions of Black membership and white membership, but an inclusive membership. When we're talking about inclusivity, we have 10,000 members, and that membership is inclusive of many, many different races and types of people and individuals who identify as many different groups. And so we wanted to bring together as a diverse a group as we possibly could. And so we were accomplishing that by bringing in initially 16 members from all walks of life from our very diverse membership of 10,000 members. And some of the goals we set out and rules we set out with was that everyone would participate. And this was a free space. This was a safe space. All conversations were held in confidence. We had each member sign a confidentiality agreement that the conversations contained within those rooms and meetings were not to go out of those rooms and meetings elsewhere. And we have some members of this PAG in this room right now today, and they can attest to what I'm telling you. Because of some of the diversity, some of the folks did not speak perfectly good English. And so we had to ask everyone to speak slowly and clearly so that everyone could be understood. We also asked that everyone be respectful of each other while we were in that room. And there were no jabs taken or judgments made. Everyone was free to speak what was on their heart and what was on their mind. And the idea and the benefit of it was for the growth and the improvement of our association as a whole. And one of my personal goals going in was I would like us to work together to find a way that when we have events and functions and educational opportunities at our association, that we have people come to these meetings that don't all look like me. And that was, I think, an introspective, soul-searching, again, statement to make, because those of you who attend these events will realize that a majority of those folks do look like me. And we want to make that different. We want to make everyone feel welcome in this organization. Some of the comments that came out was, I don't feel like I'm heard. We continue to strive for more cultural and racial diversity in our board of directors, for example. Members would like an outlet to be able to share their experiences. Well, now we have one of those. And through all of these meetings, and I think we had 6 or 7 in total, and that's not to say this group is disbanded by any means. At some point in time, we may want to get together again and share some of our progress and some of our achievements, but also to go back and see from their perspective where we still have room to grow. Some of the recommendations that came out of this group, I want to just identify for you. The first recommendation was that RRAR staff leadership would work with industry partners and subject matter experts to create a staff level position focused primarily on planning and implementing DEI action items into the ongoing association strategic planning process, planning more association cultural awareness events, building community alliance, and increasing the member outreach efforts to encourage other diverse membership to become more involved in the association. As a result of this, you are looking in your screen, and immediately to my right is Michelle Zhang, who is now here. We're welcoming you. We thank you for being here and being a part of this group. And we're looking forward to great things from you to be able to help our organization move forward toward achieving some of these expanding goals. Recommendation 2, that RRAR would create a council of diverse realtors and other housing advocates and business leaders focused on facilitating discussions, generating new ideas, and creating solutions for addressing housing inequity, cross-cultural, regional, and community development, gentrification, and affordable housing concerns, while also addressing any local marketplace instances of discrimination. You've heard some of those topics come back up over today in the previous meeting we had. And that is still in the works as we're moving forward to work these recommendations into our strategic plan. We have a meeting later this week that will help us be able to bring some of these things to fruition as part of our strategic plan moving forward. You also heard Andrew talking about working with our county commission to help us expand on our mission of providing housing affordability to our marketplace and how we can impact that and be a part of that, that discussion and part of that conversation. Recommendation number 3, that RRAR will create and add any necessary policies and procedures where RRAR members and the public may report and share instances of discrimination in the marketplace and potential violations of the NAR Code of Ethics, Article 10. These policies and procedures would ensure that members and the public feel that there is a consistent pathway for addressing issues of concern that brings resolution, but also protects due process. And adherence to the strict code of ethics of all of its tenants is one of the key responsibilities of the association and its members to strengthen the Realtor brand and image in our community and region. And recommendation 4, that RRAR invests in and continues to develop a robust education curriculum focused around DEI and fair housing topics and training, that RRAR can aspire to form partnerships with local groups and trainers who are certified in DEI training and certification and provide access to those materials to brokers in charge, agents, and others on demand. This is a great opportunity to equip our members and brokers in charge with DEI leadership training and resources for implementing DEI practices and policies within their companies. And I think as we look at these, excuse me, as we look at these recommendations, we can also say with amount of satisfaction that some of these things have already come to fruition. We've already seen some of these take place. We've already seen some of these things put into practice, some policies that are being changed, but it's only the tip of the iceberg, and we've got a long, long, long road ahead of us before everyone has a seat at the table. And as we're hearing from Andrew about some of the initiatives that he has talked about, and we'll hear some more about some others that he's talking about with different groups across the state, with North Carolina Chamber of Commerce, with our Wake County Commission and so forth, some objectives that we can help use to further our brand as Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors. And I've got to tell you, from some of the NAR discussions that we see on the internet within the forums, what we did last year in beginning this process, not only for our association, is on the cutting edge of our national association. And so there are many, many associations across the country of our size and larger size who have not even seen the tip of the iceberg yet with regard to DEI and inclusionary programming and training and education that we have now begun and instituted. So I'm very proud of what we put together last year, and it's only the beginning. So all of you are a part of that process, and we're looking for each of you to step up and volunteer and be a part of that, and to work with Corin and with Derek, and now with Michelle having her on board. Again, we're thankful that you're here to keep this process moving forward, and to also give every one of you a challenge. And that is, when we have events here at our association, invite one of your friends who you don't ever see here to come and join us for participation in some of our events. Some of this continued education that is available, as mentioned in our guidelines or our recommendations, we have put, most all of our events have been recorded and have been put into our RRAR library and are available for all of our members to visit and view. And this is a big step forward for any of our subgroups within our association to be able to pull that information and use it for training meetings and so forth. So we're optimistic and looking forward to all that we started, that we began, and all that's yet to come. So thank you very much, and let's keep on plugging.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Lewis. Such an amazing message, and thank you for taking us to church. But seriously, just listening to you and then talking about what you're doing and what you guys created with making room at the table. This is the equity piece at its finest. People really, really quickly forget what the equity means. We talk about diversity and, having perspective for all, and understanding that it includes all of us and how we're all different, right? And then the inclusion is everybody can feel included. But the equity part, this is the piece that most people miss out on or they don't think about. This is where you create access, opportunity, fairness. You've created a room for so many individuals within our association to be a part, right? To be a part of the boardroom. And this is such a milestone moment, I feel like, within our organization. And this is just the beginning. This is literally just the beginning. So thank you so much for doing that. Before we even move on to that, Derek, I know you have personally been a part of the first official PAG, the Presidential Advisory Group. Would you mind just kind of sharing with us just your experience and why you think this is so much of a value to our organization and to our associates?
Yeah. So for me personally, the Lewis reached out probably I think it was like late fall or whatever last year, and mentioned that they were putting this together and saying that they were just reaching out to different people to see if they wanted to do it. And we set up a bunch of meetings that happened periodically throughout, and just kind of talking and sharing. And a lot of it was almost a form of therapy in some ways, just talking about how you felt in the industry and frustrations that we had, and just kind of realizing that, like, hey, there's a lot of other people who feel this same way as well. Because it's also really easy to feel like you're kind of alone or on an island in some ways, even though we all technically work in the same industry, we're still competing against one another on a regular basis. And so you get caught up in the hustle and bustle of business and forget to talk about the fact that you need to vent and you need to share these experiences and things that you're going through. And so that advisory group was an awesome time to do that. But again, it just always comes back to the leadership. It makes such a huge difference when you have people who are actually working to make that happen or whatever. It would have been very easy for them to say, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll get to that. We'll put it on the books and we'll kind of work on it too." But they immediately, I mean, we presented those recommendations that Lewis gave. Wendell presented that to the board like 2 months ago. And we like fast tracked everything. We got Michelle brought on so quickly. And so like it's something where they are truly taking advantage of the momentum that's been going, because we had a lot of people who joined the committee this coming year. Like you could just tell like it was a really firestorm, and a lot of people were passionate about this. And we were like, I don't want this momentum to die down. And so I was so happy to see that we had people who are willing to work to like, no, let's keep our foot on the gas, continue to push things forward. And so I was glad that we got to do that. And I know we can do so much more. And so I'm really excited for that, and the people that we have in our committee and all that we're starting forward to. And kind of move, I don't want to step on your toes, but you can let me know if you had something else to add too, but I was going to say we can go ahead and have Andrew. I did want to have him talk about kind of the interview process, because he, like I said, Lewis talked about how we wanted to bring a position on for the DEI director, but Casey, who I think just hopped on, as well as Andrew, were very instrumental in actually vetting these people and interviewing them, talking out, figuring out who would be the best fit. And so, Andrew, if you wouldn't mind just taking a second to go ahead and speak to that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, again, Lewis, thank you for your work on the PAG. It was a great group, and we've got some plans to continue that group's work into 2021 with some of the things we're working on. It just presented itself as a really wonderful idea, kind of think tank, and so we want to continue to capitalize on that. So when it came to this position that we were going to create, we used a lot of people within our community that we had connections with. One was Yo Soba, who is, if you're connected to the Triangle YMCA, is their director of diversity and inclusion at the YMCA. Yo's a great friend of mine, and we've worked on a number of things together. And this was one of those things that I wanted his advice and, you know, kind of instruction on, since he holds this role with the YMCA community here in the Triangle. Secondly, we worked with our friends at Walk West and the diversity movement. Many of you know that the State Association recently worked on a project with Walk West to provide some leadership training at the state level on diversity and biases. And it's something that we're exploring here locally as well, and hoping to bring to the table here soon. But we started bringing in all these people who've worked these positions to kind of tell us how these job duties could be formed. One person who was very instrumental was Andrea Moore, who works for the National Association of Realtors and whose mother is a member of our diversity committee. I have come to learn, so I'm getting all the dirt on both of these people, and you know, they're a great group, and so is Andrea. Andrea, she is an amazing person. But she actually went line by line with Casey and I through this job description and offered suggestions, improvements, things like that. And so finally, it came down to like putting this job description out there and like interviewing people. And one of the things that we wanted to do was, number one, to make sure that Corinne and Derek, as our volunteer leadership on the committee, had a role in that. Number two, that Brett and Leslie, our incoming leadership, had a part in that as well. And it was really interesting. I think Casey and I have both hired a lot of people in our careers, but this honestly was the most educational process to me, because number one, it put me outside of my comfort zone in a way, because I've never hired this position. And number two, there was very much in the back of my mind a desire to get this right. You know, that I didn't want for us to hire the wrong person who would come in and just not be a right fit for us culturally as a staff, but also culturally as an organization. So there was just a lot of pressure on the whole process. And so we had a first round of finalists, 2 individuals that we brought to both Corinne and Derek and Brett and Leslie, had amazing conversations with both of them. And then just for whatever reason, both of those opportunities just didn't pan out. You know, there's a lot of reasons why people, you know, move to other positions or take another job, but it just wasn't the right fit yet. So Casey and I ultimately were kind of like banging our head against the wall, like, is it us? Like, what are we doing wrong here? But you know, the universe works in very mysterious ways. And on a Friday afternoon, we decided to reopen the post. And by the next week, there was Michelle. And, you know, it's just very interesting how things work out. And so we met with Michelle and we were like, oh, please, Lord, let this work. Like, let this be the one. And she was. And I'll let her describe, you know, her experience. You know, don't tell too many things, Michelle. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, I would love to hear from her about what she felt the process was that Casey and I went through and kind of talking about this role. Because Casey and I did a lot of real talk. You know, we did a lot of telling her, like, you know, you're going to come into this thinking that we're like here on the scale, and we ain't. You know, you're going to learn very quickly that systemic issues require systemic solutions. And, you know, some of us are ready for that. Some of us are not ready for that. And many of us have no clue that this is going on. And it's hard to work within an organization. And, you know, Michelle will tell you, she came from Amazon, which is very data driven. You know, every decision that they make is based on consumer and customer data. And they're one of the most diverse companies in the world. But yet they still have this data that drives them. And so she comes in day one and she's like, where's all the member data? And I'm like, fun fact, it is non-existent, but lucky for you, you have the mind to do this and to make this happen. So I don't want to steal her thunder. That's why you all are hopefully here. But Michelle has been already in week, what is it, Michelle, 3? Like week 1, she was absolutely crushing it. And I messaged Casey and I was like, we did it. Like we succeeded. We found somebody more passionate about this than the two of us. And she certainly has been. So Michelle, please, this is your time to introduce yourself and let everybody know what an amazing addition you are.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the kind words, Andrew, and for Corinne and Derek and Lewis also, thank you for the hype and kind words. Like, I was not expecting that much hype for this position, but I was reminded again by Corinne before we started that this is a pretty big deal, this position. My name is Michelle Hyung. I know some of you guys emailed me how to pronounce my last name. So it's Hyung. It's okay if you don't get it right away, like a lot of people don't. But I guess a little background, so you'll know me more personally. I am originally from California in the Bay Area. My parents then moved my big family to Hickory, North Carolina. I've lived in the Greensboro and Charlotte area, and now I'm happy to call the Raleigh area my home. I moved to Raleigh because I was accepted into the IO psychology program here at Meredith College. And I'm honestly so glad that I chose to come to this school because I wouldn't be here if I didn't. Like Andrew said, I did come directly from Amazon HR, which is very highly driven. And one thing I know about DEI work is that we have to be able to track progress. So that's one of my top priorities is just how can I begin to create these metrics and start measuring our success and our progress. And leaving Amazon wasn't easy because I didn't hate the job. I actually really liked the job, but leaving it for this association just made so much sense. Like I saw this role and for this association as a huge opportunity to be a part of something big and impactful. You know, they don't need me on Amazon for DEI. They're doing okay. And this is my 3rd week, and I have been slowly but surely assessing the current climate here at the association. And so far I've learned that, you know, with the great leadership we currently have, we are heading in the right direction, but there's definitely still a lot of work to do. I was surprised because I thought that we were a little above where we needed to be, but I am happy to get to work wherever I can. And I am an eternal optimist. And I feel like you sort of have to be in this line of work. You can never give up. And so it's not a bad thing that there's so much things to do. I view it as just having more opportunities to better ourselves and the association as a whole. And I understand that it may take a while for any of us to see results, but I'm willing to work hard to see those results someday. And I want everybody to just know that I am completely accessible. I'm gonna enter in my email. I want everybody to come to me for their concerns or any ideas that they want to express pertaining to DEI. And especially since I'm still learning about the realtor community. I've never worked with realtors before, so please come have conversations with me. Don't be afraid to, because I am a forever learner. And I'm just so honored to be here, you guys. You know, I was excited for this role. I didn't know how excited everybody else was too. So I think this is just like a great combination for the realtor community and for me and for everybody at the association to accomplish great things in the coming year. And I just like to thank everybody so much for the welcoming atmosphere they've given me.
Well done. Thank you, Michelle. On behalf of the association, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, we are so elated to have you. Guys, she has so much to offer. I just love the conversations, our meetings that we have. So just get ready for a fired up 2021, because there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to be doing. I guess really quick, what are we doing, right? Like, what's next? We were able to hear from leadership, but let's just kind of talk about our committee. We have an amazing committee. I cannot take credit for the committee's work. I mean, the committee, again, has been in place since 2013, and it's been doing such a phenomenal job. We have some great members, and we are really grinding. We're getting together every month. We've just subdivided into committees and created sub-leaders within our committees, because, again, there's a lot of things that we're going to plan to uncover and do moving forward. There's a couple priorities that we do have in place that we are going to be focusing on. And I'm going to share with you just a quick overview of what those priorities are for us. The first one is our Diversity Alliance Pledge, where we'll be able to define and evaluate our organizational model and culture by understanding business models, philosophy, and policies to create areas of opportunity, and develop a stronger infrastructure by adopting a model that is more diverse and inclusive community through our firms and brokerages. So we will be working with our firms and our brokerages here to help create a more inclusive community for all of our agents and members of the association. Number two, create a community engagement through special events, training, and programming. And we have a great training that's going to be coming up that you can also get CE credit for. And that's the at-home diversity. And Derek's going to talk a little bit about that. And then priority number three is creating community initiatives that provides educational support and professional growth and development for our community within and outside of the association through strategic planning and brand marketing and development. And so our subcommittees will be literally going to work and finding ways that we can implement to become a stronger association. And how do we do that? Is first by the conversation. It's from the conversation that leads to ideas for change, and then for us to really begin to implement. But we can't do it with one person. We can't do it with 10. It's going to take the collective. And so that's where we're looking to really change things. We want to be a true wildfire here. We want to spread where it becomes contagious. Contagious to the point that everybody understands the importance of the DEI space and how it affects the bottom line of their business and their growth and what that looks like. And so it's here, people. No matter if you want to face it or not, it's here. But the reality is our industry, we really have been the root of the problem. So now it's time for us to be the root of the solution. If you look at redlining, steering, even gentrification that we still see today, let's look at even our market today, what we call our unfair market, and who's really suffering from this current climate that we're in today. We continue to widen the gap. We widen the gap for building wealth as well as our success margin. And so it's our job to bridge that gap as much as possible. We want you to join us for our event that we do have coming up on April 29th. Derek, can you tell us about this event and how they can get signed up for this?
Yes, so we're offering, as she said, a designation course called At Home with Diversity. I always love the catchphrase, never stop learning. And there's so many areas where we can improve. I don't expect you to be expert on this topic, just like I don't expect you to be an expert on any other topic just because you have a designation. But if you want to learn more about this topic and just how you can help be a part of the solution and just opening your eyes to things that you may not have ever learned before or referenced before, and just the importance of this, not only within our industry, but also in our community, this is a great designation course for you to check out, and you get CE credit. And something else that I recently learned that I didn't even know myself was that if you've already done your CE for this year, you can still get one CE that can carry over into the next year. And so that's definitely something you want to take advantage of. It's going to be offered on Thursday, April 29th. The cost for it, if you sign up before April 1st, is going to be $75. If you sign up after, it's $95. So keep that in mind. Definitely something you want to do. For all of you BICs out there, or people, something like that, you can offer it as something for your office if you want to kind of get everyone on the same page, or even if you just want to invite a friend or someone to do it along with you. That's a great way to get that started. And I see Lewis has his hand raised. Yes, sir.
In conjunction with what you're talking about with the At Home with Diversity class, I mean, several of us who are in this group, in fact, I think a lot of us that are in this group now, took this last year. It is an amazing class. So by all means, take advantage of this opportunity. And in conjunction with this, our NAR president, Charlie Oppler, has challenged all of the membership to take the DEI challenge, which is comprised of 3 components. One of them is the At Home with Diversity class. One of them is the Fairhaven program, which is an NAR program, which walks you through different scenarios to see how you respond to them. And the third, if I remember correctly, is help me out, Andrew, the class on
bias video.
Bias?
It's a video on hold on, I'll give it to you.
On bias, if I remember correctly. There are 3 parts.
Training video.
And that, if I remember, is about an hour and a half long program, but there is a certification as a result of completing this. So by all means, take advantage of that. Go on your NAR site, log in, get the information, and get your certification for this. I mean, I've completed all of mine and waiting for them to somehow send me or whatever certificates. I can proudly post it. But so we're continuing to work on a state level, a local level, and a national level on this project. So let's keep moving things forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can also go to the site too to look up the information for registering for that class. But let us know if you have any questions for that. And it's funny, like in that conversation that we just had with Lewis real quick, I also wanted to make sure that we gave some time real quick to our current president, Brett Bushnell, who was able to join us from another meeting. Thanks for coming in, Brett. I know you probably are zoomed out at this point for the day, but if you just want to share real quick, just kind of your work with the committee as well, too, we'd love to hear from you.
All right. Thank you, Derek, for the warm welcome. Welcome, Michelle. Nice to see you again on a Zoom, and hopefully it will not be on a Zoom in the second half of the year, but really pleased with Michelle's hire and the work that the committee is doing. Corinne and Derek and all the members. I mean, there's a lot of people rowing in the same direction on this, and there's a lot of ground to cover, but I couldn't be happier, and I couldn't have done it without Lewis, who set up a great piece last year for this with the PAG that y'all spoke about. Sorry I was late. I have been on Zoom to Zoom. I'll get lunch maybe by 4 o'clock. We'll see. But I'm really happy with everything that's happening at the association. And we're not going to do it all in a day. And we're not going to make always all the right steps. But we are tackling some difficult conversations at the association. In leadership, myself, I mean, everybody, right, to make this a better place to do business for our members and the Realtor Association. And then hopefully, like Karim was saying, spread it to the offices and to the community in general, to try to just realize all the potential that we have for improvement while not forgetting the mistakes of the past, and see what we can do to make this world a better place. So I don't want to take too much time. I'm so happy to see all the progress that's been made so far, but know there's a lot more to go. And I'm always like Michelle, if anyone has a question or suggestion or whatnot, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to do whatever I can to help.
Thank you so much, Fred. We appreciate you so much. And we're just I'm excited for what this year has to offer. It is now 2:27. It's been a great opportunity to hear from leadership, to see what we've been doing, what's in store. If you guys have any questions, we don't have a lot of time for many questions, but we can take a couple. Does anybody have any questions right now that you would like to ask us?
And feel free to add questions to the chat as well.
Yes. And if no questions, that's okay. That is okay. That means we did a good job and we covered the bases, right? There's going to be much more to come. You're going to be hearing from our committee, from our leadership. So please stay tuned. Our information will be in the chat. You have Michelle's information. I'll put my information in there as well. And if there's anything that we can do to serve you guys, please reach out to us directly. We are definitely interested to hear from you, because at the end of the day, it's about you. Your voice counts, it matters, and we are here to help represent you the best possible way we can. Again, it's a pleasure, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.